You see, we never would have had messengers on this planet who claimed to have been able to actually handle the power of the gods and the forces, unless we were just like them. Because we are. We are. You know, for years I've been telling people that if you live out your type and your authority, that you'll find your mythology. And that you'll get to live out your mythology. Because we are mythic in proportion. It's not about the vanity of saying, gee, aren't we great? You know. It's to really recognize how gifted we are as a species. And to see that there is a very, very, very special way we're going. Think about the universe. Think about neutrinos. This incredible thing, eh? And everywhere in the universe, there is an ocean of neutrino grid that is generated by all the stars of the universe. And one planet. And one planet. Earth. And not naturally. It started in Alamogordo, just down the road. We ignited an atomic bomb. We let off neutrinos. We're producing neutrinos every day through our atomic fission and fusion and all of that stuff. And these atomic plants, they're all producing neutrinos. Think about what that actually means. The whole universe is being programmed by a stellar field. It's being programmed by the neutrino production of the stellar field. And all of that is a set mechanism moving in the formula. And then there's us. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here we are, we're putting out our own information. We're not processing neutrinos. Please understand that. That's not processing them. It's not having the neutrino from a star come through you, changed by you, out through you, so that you change the quality of it going out. That's filtering. We as a species, we're putting out our own neutrino stuff, independent of those stellar fields, independent of our own sun. See, we are different. We're already beginning to program the whole directly. Imagine what it's going to be like when human beings figure out, and they will, how information is stored in neutrino streaming. And they will. And these atomic facilities that we have, they may never again be used for heat, to generate electricity. They'll generate neutrino information. And they'll put that neutrino information out into space at nearly the speed of light in every possible direction. You see, that's a very different movie. That's us. That's our job. We're going to do all of that. We're going to figure out how all of that works. We're here to order it all. That's our job. Bring all of this together. So it's not, I am a design. It isn't. You see, that's the basic resistance that we all meet in a human being. I design. It's up to me. I do it. I make it happen. I'm God. It's my universe. People used to say to me, that they had a choice, and I would say to them, gee, I never met God before. It was my joke. This is all built into what it is to be human. I design it. I make it happen. I control it. I manipulate it. I bring the progress. It's me. Being human.
Where is the yin in that?
This is the whole point. Look, the yin is the pure yin, nothing more. But the moment that you get to the eldest daughter, the moment you get to this combination of the yin-yang, what this is that the yang working through the yin. Remember, on the yang side, it's the yang going into the yin and trying to penetrate the yin. But here on the yin side, it's the yin taking advantage of the yang, using the yang energy as it goes out, and using the yang energy to bring about the progression in form. That's why it can be so powerful. And remember, this is the great power of what the being that is going to be the result of this whole evolution, that's going to be its great power. This is going to be a great form that's going to be able to use yang energy and take advantage of it. Remember that the yang here is under control of the yin. It has to operate through the form that the yin provides. So the yang is there, but it's being controlled in that sense by the yin force. And this again is where we have this sense of darkness. It is on the yang side, the eldest son is the one that always claims that they speak to God the Father. They're the ones that say, hey, look, let me fuck you. Let me put my light in you. They're trying to control the yin. They're trying to penetrate the yin. They're trying to change the form. They're trying to penetrate the form. On this side, it's very different. On this side, the yin has the control of the yang and is using that energy to get things done. Not simply to sit still as the form principle, but to be the form principle in action. In action, moving. The fact that this facet is about I design means something very important about the way in which we look at progress, generally speaking. In other words, we have to begin to see that even though we have ourselves questions, personal questions within our own time and place about the value of any progress, the pollutants that might be a byproduct that for us in our lifetimes can be uncomfortable, can be in fact disease carrying, whatever the case may be. We don't know in the end the value of that we run into difficulties in the sense that we build a morality around what design is good and what design isn't. It's like the Chinese government right now. They want to build this enormous dam over the Three Rivers project. And it's one of the great ecological messes. You're displacing 1.5 million people. You're killing off tons of life, all kinds of stuff so that they can have consistent electricity and so forth and so on and supposedly be able to control flooding in the southern basin. There's a lot of people who will say, that's a terrible design. Don't do that. Don't design that. Don't do that. Don't make that progress happen because that isn't going to be good for us. And of course, there's going to be forces on the other side that say, we have to have this kind of progress because this progress brings electricity. It brings luxury. It brings refrigerators. It brings, blah, 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 all of those things that the people need. So one of the basic human dilemmas that we have is that out of our morality, we have a constant competition between what's allowed to be designed or what the culture or civilization considers appropriate to be designed at this particular time. And we've been going through that obviously for thousands of years. What it does is that it takes away from the objective view of what progress is about. And remember that we've made that a dirty word in the last 50 years. We really have, for our generation, for those of us raised in the West, progress has been something that we have, it's kind of backwards decadence after all. We can only afford to dump on progress because we benefit from it. And if we didn't benefit from it, we'd be screaming for it because we'd want it. It is the way things are. It's important for us not to get moralistic about this quality of progress in humanity because it's absolutely essential for us. What's human design after all but an attempt to order humanity mechanically? That's what it is. It's clear to me that if everybody lived out their design, we would have a very orderly, we would have a very healthy, cooperative, collaborative environment in which we could all live in peace. It's very clear to me. That's the job, is to try to bring order. That's a very human thing for us. Yet at the same time, to bring that order, yourself what resistance you meet. You meet the resistance of this very fourth base that says, wait a minute. You don't give me my design, I design. You don't tell me I have no choice. I have choice. I have choice whether I'm going to be allow you to manipulate me or not. All of this relative consciousness that comes in the world of ignorance. And you see what happens because of that is that because we don't have a clean, objective view of the value of progress, we don't have a proper way of seeing what progress is important for us to put our energy behind. And that's what's important. You know, it's not about the age-old fight of whether you should build another building where there was once a piece of wetlands or blah, 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 or all of that stuff. It's about seeing that we need to put our energy into those progressive things that are truly for us to be involved in. You know, my support, for example, of the scientific investigation of the genome. Now, at the same time, there's vast movements already, particularly in this country, because this country breeds movements and associations and all that stuff. You got all kinds of people that want to stop this. They want to stop it. You know, they don't want anybody to really know how it works because they're afraid they're going to be left behind. You know, they're afraid that they're not going to get the genetically engineered child that happens to be able to play Mozart at 4. You know, they're afraid that they're going to be left out, and particularly those that are at the low end of the economic scale, because as we well know, genetic engineering is going to be for the rich first. And it isn't going to be that the rich are going to get richer, the rich are going to get smarter, stronger. I mean, we're into some interesting times. And when you're dealing with people that are being resistant to this kind of investigation, you're really getting at the core root of what we're about. You see, you're dealing with the fear threshold that's the most important fear threshold we have. It's the thing that shatters God in the end. Remember, I'm not against God. You know, whatever gods may be. What I do know is that the Biverse was created. What I don't know is who those two were, whatever that was. You know, what I'm talking about is the shattering of the concept of God in the relative context that we have and have had historically within our framework. You see, the moment that we can really have all that genome mapped, the moment that not simply the white-hatted doctors who say, we have found the cure for cancer, we have found the cure for this, or whatever the case may be, you know, but the black-hatted ones, you know, that for, you know, pocket dot-com billionaires are producing wonderful children for them, the moment that that evidence comes out, and it will, and it isn't going to take that long, you know, that's when we're going to have a big, huge bubble burst between those people who are going to fall apart because the Godhead collapses the moment we create life. It just does. The biggest moral question about cloning a human being is religious. It is the biggest moral question. It's the only question. Well, you know, God made us. You know, this is not blah, blah, blah. It was like the first test tube baby. I remember that ages ago. Hey, this little girl, Brown, in England, this first test tube baby, and all the religious fanatics in England going, you know, this is a child of the devil, and blah, blah, blah. She's a sweet little girl, by the way. We'll get to the same point, and of course, this is a very, very important threshold. This is the point in which what I'm talking to you about the transcendence of humanity to the point in which we leave behind our reliance on God, that we take the responsibility, not that God has the responsibility. We take the responsibility to be the maintainers and creators of life. Wow, that's a big step. That's a big step. That's what we're all about. And that's what our movement in space has been all about. What we've looked at, as a matter of fact, most strongly since the 1600s, since 1610, 1614, when we entered into this particular part of the round that we're now in, you know, this is when all of this stuff really started to hum and fly. We started to really be able to know how to organize. Do you know how many traffic lights there are in the world? Oh, it's really incredible. There weren't any 100 years ago. There were none. You know, all these roads, all this ordering, all this interconnecting, all of this, and then extended into what we have now, which is the 21st century internet, web, blah, 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 networked, all of this stuff. Wow, are we moving? And you see, so much of humanity is terrified because they think that we are disobeying God, that we're sinners, that we're damned. They really think that this is all a horror. I mean, remember that we're at the time in which the only spiritual movements that really have power are fundamentalist. Look around you. Only the radicalization of faith is popular now. The mainstream is all kind of ho-hum and blah, blah, and dying. What you have is the last stand. You got the last stand of all these spiritual religious fanatics. Mohammed was right, Buddha was right, Jesus was right. They're all blah, blah, blah. My God's better than your God, all that stuff. That's what you're getting. And of course, this last stand is there because of where we've moved in our progress. If you go to Afghanistan and you talk about progress, they hate it. They hate it. My God, what they're doing to their women there. It's unbelievable. It is just unbelievable. They're putting them back into the Stone Age. A woman can't go out of the house unless she's accompanied. And she has to be obviously totally covered. She cannot be educated. She cannot go to the hospital, for Christ's sake. That's the fanaticism of fundamentalism. And it is this reaction to what comes with order. That the order breaks down all those quirky little things that don't fit in, that don't work, and that without the order, you don't have success. I watched personally, because I was living in Central Europe at the time. I was there when the wall came down. And I watched the German government of the time, because they had to, make a deal with Gorbachev and invest tens of billions of Deutschmarks, enormous, incredible sums of money, a kind of payoff in a sense, and pumping that money into the Soviet Union. Of course, a lot of other people did the same. A lot of other countries that were wealthy did the same thing. And when all of that was going on, I thought, that's a very nice present, but it's like a Christmas present. It's useless. And it's useless for only one reason. One of the funniest things that I saw was that on the nightly news in Germany during the coming down of the wall, when the moment of unification came, the German news, like our evening news, the German news that comes on at 7:00 at night, it always comes on with a map. Like American news, you see, it comes on with a map of Germany. And of course, all of a sudden that map looked very different because you now had Eastern Germany. And in all of the gas stations, suddenly you had maps that were being sold so that you could, have maps for the eastern side because they hadn't been available in 40 years. So I bought one of these maps. It was such a joke. And I bring this map back, and the map goes from most of Western Europe, Germany, to about the middle of France. And it goes from the central part right to the Russian border. So you've got, Poland and you have Czechoslovakia, and, you have all of these border countries along with what was East Germany. So I open up this map. And on the West German side, it looks like the neural activity in a human. There's roads everywhere, there's lights everywhere, there's service stuff everywhere. And then 1/3 of the size of the whole country, there's this map, and it's just green. There's maybe 3 roads. You see, progress is liberating. It just is. We get more and more concerned about our privacy and all of that stuff, which is a real joke for me because we are one. And in the end, there is no privacy. It's not possible. But it's so, being human, what it means to be human. It's not about us being one with nature. It isn't. As politically incorrect as that is. And as I say that, recognize something in that. I couldn't live anyplace else but in nature. It happens to be aesthetically what I like. And I love all of that primitiveness in that sense and the simpleness of all of that. And I've lived the romance of that in my life. But I'm a real good example of a human who goes about the business of organizing and ordering others at a vast scale. I'm part of all of this. I'm part of this mechanism, and it is clear to me where our direction is. I just want to make sure that, well, I can't make sure of that. I would like to be able to see that we get there where. I would like to be able to see that we get there according to our type, according to our nature, so that what we do manipulate is manipulated correctly. That those things that we manipulate are the correct things to manipulate. It's not about stopping it. You know, it's like me dealing with emotional people. Be emotional, but be emotional when you're clear, please. Okay? You know, it's not about that. We must manipulate the environment, but it has to be correct. You know, that's our whole program, and we have to get to that point. This brings us to the last three aspects here that I want to discuss. What we've looked at each of these bases as we've gone through so far. And as we went through, we saw that we started with where. You know, we started with the first base. We started with, you know, where everything is. When we get here to the fourth, what we get to is why. It's one of the reasons in my discussion about the correctness of manipulation, because it is our role to manipulate, that it's very important that we know why we're doing that manipulation. Why is very, very, very important to humanity. You know, for years I had a joke. I love word games, anagrams, all these silly things. And my name for Earth was Why Planet. You know, it was a great no-choice pun, you know, why planet, you know, don't plan it, you know. But this is why planet, because everybody asks why. Aside from why planet, you know, don't get into planning things because the plan is there. This is why. You know, why is the sky blue? If you have a child, you know that one of the first intellectual moments of their life is the phase they go through when they ask you why about everything. Everything. You know, to the point at which you're ready to go totally stark raving mad. Eh? Not only that, but it's often embarrassing that they ask you things that you really don't know. Children continually ask their parents why the sky is blue, and they really don't know. You know, it's fascinating the bullshit that kids get, as feedback. And those are the kind of questions, simple ones like that. Why is the sky blue? And the parent goes, don't ask me questions. You know, they don't know. Why is very important to us. Why am I the way I am? Why is the world the way it is? Why is life the way it is? Why do I suffer? Why do I have to suffer? Why do I have to work? Why do I have to go to school? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? Why? Why planet? Human beings live on why planet? And so one of the things for us is that there is a magic here. The magic is when you don't have to ask why. I mean, this is human enlightenment. See, that's the whole thing about surrender. In surrender, there's no question. There can't be a question. You know, I can't say to the gods, why me? You know, they'd beat me up, hurt me if I did that. It's foolish. In surrender, there is no why. There just is. Just is. That's justice. Just is. You know. That's what everything is. And you cannot get to the point of just is until you know essential answers to the human questions of why. Why am I here in the world? And why am I the person that I am? And why do I act the way that I do? And why do I have this kind of life rather than that or the other or whatever? That's us. Why? And of course, those whys become really incredible. You know, because in exploring and seeking out those answers, we get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper control and order in the way in which we operate in the world, and greater opportunities to be able to manipulate. This why is an incredible thing, and we're born with this why. And one of the things you'll notice about the way in which we've evolved in our civilization is that today you get rewarded for your answer. Now, that was not always true. Not only was it always true, but most people didn't even know there was a question around. Because there was no generalized education, there was no generalized intellectual development of humanity as a whole. It only belonged to certain classes at the top. That you see this whole pursuit of why this is what it's all about. And when you get to that point, design. See, design can't answer all the questions for you. It doesn't have to. It's not important. I always have this process. I always remind you of it, that whenever I'm teaching the minutiae of human design, there's always a part of me that's under stress because I know it moves people further and further and further away from the basic truth of what human design is, which is type. There isn't anything else to start with. The fact that, there is a cadre of students who are well educated and know all of this stuff, it's all very nice. But we have a vast, unwashed humanity who doesn't know anything about it and will never have either the patience, the talent, the interest, the openness that you have to explore new knowledge. These are people that are caught up in the essence of their lives and caught up with the vanity of they being the designers. And it's essential for us to see that because we have the privilege of this knowledge, that our work is not about the deep, other than for our own personal development. It's about using the privilege of being in the geometry of receiving this knowledge to get it to other people. And I don't care how you get it there. Whether you get it there as a professional who professionally takes somebody through what is a correct analysis, or whether you're just a friend that says, look, this is your type, do something about it. It doesn't matter. It's about getting that information out to people because that's what it's all about. You see, the why that human design answers is the most important why we have. And it's the only one that matters. Why am I the way I am? Nobody's comfortable with themselves out there. Nobody. And nobody has the answer to that. Nobody. That's the beauty of this knowledge. It says to you, this is why you are the way you are. And this is what's part of the way you are the way you are. And this is how it works. And this is what's not the way you are. It's so simple. And you see, that questions the main bug. All the other stuff is just intellectual pursuit. It's part of us needing to get down to the minutiae. After all, I'm teaching you this so the science is recorded and has a basis. The minutiae down here, you want to play black magician down here at the base level? Boy, can you ever. It's all about manipulation in the end. All knowledge is that. I used to have people come up to me in the first years of human design and say, this is dangerous knowledge. Yeah. What knowledge isn't dangerous? It's all dangerous. Ignorance makes everything dangerous. Continually. But you see, that one answer, it's at the core, because that one answer heals the dilemma of this facet. It heals the ego. I'm an archetype. Paddy Pata, I think, got me this great hat that says Ego Manifester. It's me. I'm a pure archetype of the ego. Not only that, I have my ego being activated by an Aryan sun and an Aryan moon. I'm a classic ego manifester. And before I met this knowledge, I lived out the darkest aspects of ego. The darkest aspects of ego. And I know them well. I know them really well. I know how ugly ego and vanity can be. I know how overbearing it can be. I know how uncomfortable it can make people. I know what it can do to them. And I've done it to them over and over and over again. And I know what it is to stand on the false platform of your ego only to sink into the sand. I know all that. But I know something else. In my privilege in this life, I've had 13 years of dealing with my ego as an energy and not as a problem. And as an energy, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You see, it is our will that matters. In the end, will is a dimensional field. It is the field of ego. And if you think about it in another way, in a larger way, you can imagine that it's here that we get our heart. It's here where we have the stomach to live in the totality. All of those things are here in this fourth base. But this question, why? That's what human design is here to answer. And if you answer that first basic question, why am I the way I am, you have progress. You just have progress. And you have the healing of that ego, because you see, I know many of you in your stories. You see, the moment that you meet surrender, everything about you gets clean. Everything. Your enemies forget that you're the enemy. It all changes. Those that rejected you don't even know why they rejected you anymore. It all changes. It's a remarkable thing that happens. And of course, what happens is the recognition inside the individual who can experience that is that, hey, that's not me doing that. I mean, as an ego manifester, people always think that I'm doing stuff. Mm-hmm. Now I'm busy, but I'm not doing anything. I mean, I'm really not. It's not like I set out to do anything. Everything happens to me, but it happens to me as a manifester. And it looks like I'm initiating everything. It looks like I never wait. It looks like I'm always starting. It's not true. I know that. I know that nothing happens until I move. Nothing. That I manifest because there's nothing else I can do, because I am totally helpless in manifesting. And the 8% of us that are manifestors on this planet know the pain of that. Because you can't stop. You can't do anything about it. And everybody says, it's you. It's you. It's your ego doing that. It's your this, your that, whatever. The healing of the human ego, this is so important. Because I know the beauty of this energy. You see, those of you, I think all of you actually, who had your initial reading with me, that's when you met it. That's when you meet that energy. That's when you meet the pure ego energy that brings initiation. Because that's what it is. If that was a vain ego, no one gets initiated in that. Everybody just suddenly becomes competitive and says, oh, that's not me. No, that's not right. Because that's the reaction to imposed will, is resistance. It has to be clean. It has to be pure. And when that energy is pure, then the will to change and manipulate can be correct. And can be guided by a correct and proper energy. So in looking at this ego design, at the not self-mundane level, this is my ego and I do everything. And at the transcendent level, this is we are the will of life and we are a design. This is the answer to why. And you know how you know that you've got the answer? You smell it. Oh, this is so deep in what it is to be us. You gotta smell it. That was my most profound experience that I ever had on a drug. I ended up in some kind of space. I was experimenting with ketamine. And I was flying around in some kind of empty space very fast. I was feeling G-forces against my face. It was like I was pressed back in a rocket chair. And I go flying into a zone of aroma. I mean, there was nothing to see. I wasn't seeing anyway. There was nothing to hear. There was no hearing in there. I couldn't even hear the fact that there was somebody in the room beside me. And that while I was experiencing all of that, what they were hearing me say over and over again was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, about 1,000 times. I did not know I was saying any of that. I was inside this no sound, no sight place. But it was all aroma. It was a smell. I have never, ever, 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 ever met that aroma anywhere. This was something really different. And it was the smell of awareness. At least for me, that's what it smelled like. It was actually my first spiritual experience. I actually smelt something that was really, wow, that's something really intelligent. I mean, I came back with that sense of smell. You smell it. Smelling is so important for us, eh? It's everything about us. And boy, oh boy, can you ever smell a clean ego or a dirty ego? And can you ever smell it fast? Do you ever know? You know, this whole business about aroma, it drives us. It defines our environment. You see, smells are very, very, very important to us. In my conversations and discussions about the tribal circuitry in humanity, and I talked about how smell, because of course it has to do with the stream that's running from the 32 to the 54, the 4426, that this whole stream is related to the sense of smell, and that it's one of the ways in which tribally we separate ourselves. You have a guest in your house. You have a guest in your house and you have one bathroom. The guest comes into the house and the first morning that they're there and they have a shit, that morning you walk into the bathroom and you gag. 2 days later, after they've been living with you in your house and eating the same food as you go into the bathroom, you don't gag anymore. It smells just like you. And they're much more welcome when they smell just like you. Now, obviously, that has to do with diet, that has to do with the environment, it has to do with many things. But please understand that smell is something that is deeply, deeply significant to us. We are not going to have a partner we can't smell. We're not going to allow people into our lives that we cannot smell. You know, I knew as a teenager when I was dating girls, I could tell the moment that they said hello to me because I could smell it on their breath. I knew instantaneously which one would be interesting and which one would not, and it was just the aroma. Now I'm 26, you know, I have that kind of smell. I smell it. We all do. It's the way in which we pick and choose and all of this stuff. It's all going on at this deep aroma level. Now think about the way in which humanity tries to change that. Think about the deodorant perfume business. Think about that. There's maybe 35 or 40 million men in the world, who use, what is this thing? This horrible, horrible aftershave that was there in the 50s. Old Spice. Who are these creatures? If you come near somebody that's wearing Old Spice, you don't want to be, well, I can't speak for everybody. There must be people that like that. But what I'm trying to say to you is, aroma is something that we use as a tool of manipulation. You can't belong to the tribe till you smell like us. Now, of course, that used to be basic. It meant that you ate in our house. Or you were a clan and you all ate the same food from the same recipes from the senior female. So everybody smelled the same and everything was okay and everything was kosher that way. But you can't do that in polyglot, cosmopolitan, vast population societies, where everybody, in fact, there's all these alien tribes and all these alien aromas and they're all around. So what do you have? You have the Old Spice tribe. Or you have the Calvin Klein tribe. And if you're rich, you have the zillion-dollar perfume tribes. These are the new tribes. They're the new tribes. And they're hiding so much. Because they don't let you smell them. What you smell is Old Spice. This is the way in which people hide from each other. It's just one of the things. It's so deeply connected to us, aroma, in just about everything. Watch people when they eat. You have to smell the food. Some people do it obviously. They will take a piece of food right up to their nose and they'll, is this going to kill me? You have to. And that we manipulate environments by manipulating the environment in terms of its aroma. I truly understand why non-smokers don't like smoking rooms. I understand that. It's a different perfume and you do not reach the people anymore. All you get is the tobacco people. You have the tobacco people. It's like meeting people who just came from McDonald's. You got the McDonald's people. They all smell like old burger. Well, they do, at least for 20 minutes afterwards. You know where they've been. Aroma means everything to us. And it's one of the things ultimately that we are going to have to control and order.
Pheromones?
Yes, exactly. Pheromones. We're going to have to do that. Now, the way that we're going to do that is what we've already done. In an earlier discussion I had at some point about the nature of pheromones, I reminded you that the way in which pheromones work in terms of their molecular structure is that they work in a binary, 2, 4. They work in that binary, so you'll smell number 2 naturally. That might be, the smell of a certain kind of flower or whatever. You'll smell number 4 naturally. You'll smell 6, 8, whatever the case may be. All the even number molecular structures you can smell naturally. What we discovered in the Second World War through scientific stuff that was going on as part of the war effort is that we found that we could create new smells. These are the pheromones that are odd. 3, 5, 7, 9 in terms of their molecular structure. So that's the smell of bubblegum. Now bubblegum is not a natural smell. It's not a natural pheromone. Okay, it's one of these odd numbers. The smell of a new car. It's artificial. It's not a natural pheromone. So look, one of the things that genetic manipulation is going to bring to us is that it's going to bring a uniform pheromone release. In other words, you don't have to put the deodorant under your arm because you're going to smell like one of the members of the tribe, even if you're as rank as a pig. In other words, that message that you belong is going to come through. I want to tell you something. The moment that we can actually do that, you're going to end about 70% of all violence. All violence, because the enemy always smells bad. You stink. The enemy always smells bad. The enemy is obviously not yours. And the moment that we have pheromone uniformity, everybody belongs to the same tribe, finally. Now, by the way, that will take its own time, but please understand, this is what we're already doing, but now what it's doing is creating problems rather than bringing the right kind of progression that's healthy. All of this artificial aroma saturation, doesn't allow us to see, for example, the first time that you make love to somebody, take a shower first, or play in the shower first, or whatever it is that you do. But what I'm really saying to you is, how are you going to know at the human level, at the deepest human level, who that partner really is if you're smelling their perfume, if you're tasting their lipstick or their underarm deodorant or God knows what else? You don't have any idea who that being is. You're being blocked off. And of course, this is one of the ways in which we are our most vulnerable. is when we expose ourselves to being smelled by the other. I mean, after all, there are very few human beings that will naturally and comfortably fart in public. And I don't mean to be just crude. It's true. We don't necessarily want anybody to smell us intimately. We don't necessarily want anybody to know what we really smell like. You know, that's us that we're revealing at a very, very, very deep level. Deep level. I mean, how many people have phobias about their physical aroma? You know, a bathroom aroma particularly. I mean, it's unbelievable the fetishes people have. And the funniest thing about that is that the architects, you know, I don't like architects. Architects come along and design bathrooms that don't have windows. I mean, these are really cruel people. So what do you have to hear? You always know somebody's in the bathroom because you have a Boeing 747 taking off in the ceiling. You know? I mean, human beings are outrageously funny. So this whole business of smell, to really understand how deep that is in us, and we've got a problem with that. I've told you over the years in dealing with the tribal circuit, particularly dealing with the 49 and the 19 and that 40-37, that whole field, how important it is for people to eat together. I mean, I eat with people that I really care about. It's important to eat with people. Because, of course, when you eat with people, you actually bring a unified aroma. You know, you really integrate in that way. You're all caught up in the one aroma of the meal together. That's why festivals were huge groups. That smell of turkey. Everybody's got it on their body. Everybody's got festival smell. Everybody's got dead turkey smell, and everybody's ready to be one. And you see, when you eat together, it's a remembrance of that. Because you see, when you go back into your own environment and you release the processing of that, you release the waste of that, it's not quite you anymore. It's you with them. It's something else. It's a way we meet each other. It's a very deep thing. See, we've got all these, you know, it's always so funny to me that people have such hang-ups about their body. You know, I've lived for 20 years in Europe where people quite naturally walk around naked and nobody gets excited. You know, they don't have that same kind of consciousness of a body. And people with their shit and stuff, you know, I mean, whoa, they all got such a heavy trip with all of this. You know, I mean, you've got basically an anally retentive planet. I mean, well, that's not really true. The third world doesn't have that hang up. It's one of the things that comes with our whole progression. And what we've done with that, because we have some kind of, again, this is about trying not to be animal, eh? You know, it's all mixed into this fourth base. It's like, well, we don't want to be like the animals. You know, we'll flush it down the toilet. It'll go into the sewage. You know, nobody's going to smell it. Nobody's going to know, you know, blah, 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 all of that stuff. You know, that's a way of us saying, no, we're not like animals. We're different. We don't go out into the field and shit on the ground. You know, we're more sophisticated than that. But at the same time, it leads to a whole neurosis about that. About smell. About aroma. Body aroma. Man, oh man, oh man. The trip that people have with body aroma. And here you've got, you know, aura boxes where you have thousands of people that work together in these confined spaces with artificial light and artificial air. And they're all, you know, Ms. Calvin Klein and Mr. Old Spice. It's spooky. And none of them know each other. I have a lot of respect, by the way, for not so much about the application of aromatherapy, but the recognition in aromatherapy. There is a deep recognition in there about how important it is for us to come to grips with the impact of aroma on our lives. That we need to recognize that and understand that smell is important for us. If you're going to have an important meeting with somebody, you know, don't have it in a smoke-filled room, or don't have it in an incense room, or whatever the case may be. Don't have it in a place in which the aroma is dictating the environment and you don't get access to the person you're dealing with. The other thing is, I like what Europeans do. No matter who meets each other, women to women, men to men, men to women, everybody fakes a kiss on the cheek. It's not even a kiss, actually. You just sort of put your cheek next to that person. Boy, do you get a whiff. It's great tribal stuff. I mean, we do this. You don't smell nothing other than Old Spice. Eh? At that distance, you don't smell anything. You know, and this is a wonderful thing, because the moment you get access to somebody, you get close enough to them that you, and it's not about consciously saying, okay, I gotta go up there and, you know. It's just about realizing as a human being, you get the information you need. For example, you come up to somebody and you don't know that they're about to give you a whole mouthful. And you come up to them, in that moment you smell them, you already know. You know. I mean, it may not percolate to your conscious in that sense that, look out, it's about to happen, but you're not going to be surprised when suddenly it comes out because you smelt it coming. And again, this goes back to not interfering with the way in which you're designed to operate, because you're designed to operate perfectly. You're designed to take in those aromas and know what to do with them, as long as you're not interfering. You know, your interference is, you know, I don't like myself, so I don't like the way that I smell. I want to smell better. I want to be more attractive. I'm going to take, I'm going to take oil from the genitals of dead creatures, and I'm going to mix it up, and I'm going to stick it on my face, and I'm going to hope like, yeah. It's embarrassing to be a human being. Eh? I mean, we've got such great stuff going for us, and then we have this cranky stuff that's really too much. Eh? In the end, what all of this is about is manifestation. This is the base that brings us that. Obviously, progress deeply connected to manifestation, and manifestation as a way of life on earth. Always remember that the design of life on earth is a 43-23, 20-34, 40-37. That's the design of life on earth as a general theme. In other words, those are the three channels that form definitions by being oppositions in the wheel. These are the most consistent definitions that exist. They are the most common definitions that exist. And it's about being busy and manifesting. Now, it happens to be a manifesting generator's design with emotional authority split off. So you can see the difficulty that life on earth, that is us in that sense, has to go through. However, we are here to manifest, because without manifesting, nothing happens. And everything about this base is about manifesting. Manifest the order, manifest the design, manifest all that stuff. Get all that out there. We still haven't gotten to the point that we're sophisticated enough with the manifestation of this whole aroma business. I tell you, that's going to be one of the most important steps that we take in order to bring about human compatibility. I mean, it's so important for us. Because you see, no matter how much you like somebody, if you can't smell them, you can't have anything to do with them, and you won't. You just won't. You know, there'll be a part of you that says, I don't know why I can't, I actually like that person, but I have many of those people in my life. I really like them. They're nice people. It's not about anything personal. Nothing personal at all. It's just I can't smell them. And it's not about the conscious smelling that they smell bad. It's nothing like that. It's deeper than that. It's that deep inner aroma field in which you know whether something is for you or not. And that comes from smell. And that's why foreplay is essential in lovemaking. It's to create all the aromas. If you don't create the aromas first, there's no sense that you're with the right person. None. That's why that lovemaking when you're young starts off just as petting. It's just about getting all of those hormones cooking so that everybody can get a smell of that and begin to understand the impact of those aromas. When you really smell somebody for the first time, it's very exciting. When it's not your mother or your father or your sibling, it's very exciting. It goes so deep into the nature of what we are. So pay attention to that. And one of the things that I want to remind you of is the number of products that are used for cleaning that are scented. And really, don't do that to yourself. Use products for cleaning that don't bring a scent, that are neutral. We have all of this complex stuff that is being placed on us. It's like the fad of lemon. I mean, this was a lemon country for years. Everything was lemon. You had lemon soap, and you had lemon deodorants, and you had lemon air fresheners, and you had lemon this and lemon that, and you'd walk into somebody's house and it was like walking into a lemon. This is what we do. So be very careful about taking these artificial aromas and draping them on your body. Stay with things that are neutral. The other thing is, I can't do anything about the perfumes or deodorants that people use, but my suggestion is just be clean. I mean, yes, I know there's people who have problems where that isn't a factor. However, for most of us, it's just a matter of cleanliness. And your own aroma is the most beautiful aroma. It is. It's the most beautiful. It's the most real. It's the most natural. But it takes courage. It takes courage. Most of us do not want to let people have access to that. And it really does. You'll see. It's quite something. Because without even having a conscious access to it, you get to see that we are so deeply impacted and influenced as humans by the aromas and the smells around us. We really are. It's one of my joys to live in a place like, Sedona, where, it is one of these sparkling, clean environments. So you don't get these kinds of aromas that, you feel uncomfortable with. The only problem with Sedona is it's so dry that you don't get enough. I have sage around my house, and I only smell it when I water it. And that's, again, the aroma world is something so important for us. Pay attention to that. But in the end, what this fourth base represents is that it represents manifesting. Once you have your why, go out and do something about it. Once you have the answer, act on it. And of course, this is the power that's here in this fourth base. It insists that we see ourselves and get to that place where it's justified, that we are beyond nature, and that we ourselves become the forces that maintain and create in nature. That's the package that's there in the fourth base. Keep in mind something. Each of these bases are aspects of a dimensional field at work, and it doesn't stand alone. Remember the diagrams that I showed you in the neutrino biverse, in which different bases, different dimensions only connect with other dimensions. It's something we're going to look at this afternoon, because given that you have an idea of bases, and some of you a glimpse of it in terms of your own nature, I'm going to show you which bases belong with which other bases. And what's the relationship between the various bases. And of course, these very pure fundamental relationships for us, that's where we're moving towards. But don't see that this human aspect, it doesn't dominate. It has its place within the formula, but there are all these other things. And then, of course, this afternoon, we're going to see that when we come to the fifth base, we come to the interaction that takes place with all the four other bases. And then finally we can get to a point where we can look at the interconnectiveness. So see this in its place. See it in its place with the other bases, but keep in mind one thing. When you look at the structure of mother and father and eldest son and eldest daughter, in the end, it is the eldest daughter that holds sway. In other words, this is through the fourth base, we can see the future, and we can see the future of what the totality is going to be. It is going to have this power. It is going to be a yin that will release yang energy. It is going to be a progressive, manipulative force. And I assume, given its size, that it has a hell of an aroma.